Moms and dads, I bet you can relate to this email. Kirk, my son is just like the kids you described in your podcast. He comes home feeling defeated after school, feeling like he isn't smart. But I got him Crunch Labs and he loves it. Building the new toy and watching Mark Rober makes him feel smart. And then he explains, talking a million miles a minute, like our kids do, all the cool science facts he's learned. It's like I get my real kid back when he's building his Crunch Labs toy. And that is exactly why I was so psyched when my niece first told me how her son loves Crunch Lab. Confession, this is the one sponsor I wanted more than any other because it's such a perfect fit for our kids. So go to crunchlabs.com/calm and you'll see why. Crunch Labs is a STEM monthly subscription build box for kids. Your kids get a really fun toy in the mail every month. And what kid doesn't love that? And then they put it together by watching a step-by-step video from former NASA engineer Mark Rober, where he teaches all the cool physics that make the toy work. Mark's passion is helping kids think like engineers. And this helps your kids develop resilience and problem-solving skills while having a ton of fun. Get your kids something they will actually love, use, and look forward to getting all throughout the coming year. Build your child's confidence now. Visit crunchlabs.com/calm and get your kids Crunch Labs today.
When you bring your child home for the first time, you want a baby monitor you can trust. When you choose Stork, you choose technology trusted to monitor 10 million babies in hospitals every year. Stork continuously tracks your baby's pulse rate, oxygen saturation, and temperature. Visit MassimoStork.com to learn more. Stork, a revolutionary baby monitor, is born. Stork is not a medical device. Read and understand all product labeling. Massimo data on file.
If you have a strong-willed child, within the next 24 hours, you will probably have to calm that child, discipline that child, motivate that child, get that child to stop being defiant and stop from hitting siblings or something like that, right? And that's hard to do. Today, I want to give you one tool that you can practice this week that will work in so many different situations. And that's why I'm excited about today's episode of the Calm Parenting Podcast. So welcome. This is Kirk Martin, founder of Celebrate Calm. You can find us at celebratecalm.com. If you find this podcast helpful, please share it with other parents because other parents are struggling like all of us do because raising a strong-willed child is not easy. All of the strategies that you learned tend to backfire on the strong-willed child, right? So if you struggle with your strong-willed child, reach out to our strong-willed child. His name is Casey, C-A-S-E-Y, at celebratecalm.com. Tell us about your family. What are you struggling with? Ages of your kids. We will respond personally. This doesn't go to some junk mail thing or some bot that answers. We answer personally. And we answer pretty quickly usually because this is our family mission. We'll give you some ideas, some insights, some strategies. If you need help personally to put together a custom package of our resources specifically for your family within your budget, just ask Casey. He's awesome at helping people. So here's what I've heard for the last 20 years from parents. Well, my child is just doing that because he wants our attention. No. This is really, really important. This is an important distinction. Your child does not want your attention. Your child wants, needs, craves your intensity. Please write down the word intensity. They want your intense emotional involvement. If you don't feel like taking notes, sign up for our free newsletter at Celebrate Calm or just email Casey about it because I put all of this in a short summary. And 2 times a week, I do a short summary. And sometimes people like the words written down. And we actually, when we give you a script, it's written. And that's very, very helpful. So they want your intensity. They don't want your attention. The brain physically craves intensity. Many of you have kids who have brains that are always seeking brain stimulation because their brains are physiologically understimulated. So the reason that they doodle and tap pencils and bounce their legs and chew on things, the reason that they procrastinate is because they need the brain stimulation. Why do you think they pick on siblings and push your buttons? Because, watch, all I have to do if I'm a kid is I look at my sister the wrong way or say something mean to her. All of a sudden, my sister is upset, which makes mom upset, which gets dad upset. And by looking at my sister, I got 3 people giving me intense emotional involvement. Now, the problem with that is that we train their brains by constantly doing this to give intense emotional involvement when they do things wrong. And the scary part is their brains physically change, and they begin seeking intensity from doing things the wrong way. And they do that at school and they do that at home. So we've got to change that. So I want to give you 3 different ways to handle it this week. Number 1, acknowledge with intensity. I want you to acknowledge that what they're doing is interesting to them with intensity. I want you to acknowledge their emotions and their frustration with intensity. Now, picture this. Something happens to you and you're really upset or frustrated. So you call your best friend. And if your best friend says, well, I don't know why you're upset about that. You're just overreacting. You're like, now I'm angry at you, right? Because that's what your spouse does to you all the time. We as men often do that to our wives. Oh, honey, there's no need to be upset. You're just overreacting. And that's very damaging and harmful to the relationship. And the reason we do that is because we don't know how to be comfortable with emotions and haven't learned yet that our job is not to fix you or fix situations. Our job is just to listen and acknowledge that. It's one of the key things you will learn if you go through our marriage program, and we're including it free for Mother's Day this week because it is so important. Look, maturity as a man is not me trying to fix my wife, because watch what happens. I wasn't planning on this, but this is really good. When I try to fix my wife's emotions, you know what I'm really saying? I need you to change your emotions because I can't handle them. I need you to change because your emotions make me uncomfortable. See, maturity is when I can look at my wife and say, of course you'd be frustrated. Of course you'd be upset, right? When I do that and I don't have to fix it, and I can say, look, if you want to talk later, come and grab me. I'd love to listen, because my job, I don't have to fix that. And I'm comfortable with my wife being upset. And I'm comfortable with my wife being quiet when she needs to be. That's maturity. That will build trust, and that will build a good marriage. You've got to work on those skills. So let's start doing that with our kids. So here's some good phrases. Of course you want to go to Jimmy's house for a sleepover tonight. I've just acknowledged. Now I don't have to say, okay, let's go. I'm going to let you. I can say, but it's not happening tonight. See, remember, my no is always even, matter of fact. Of course you want that new video game. It sounds really cool. That's acknowledging. Look, one of the deepest human needs is simply to be heard. But what we do is dismiss, well, you've already got these video games you don't play with, and it's going to rot your brain, and we're ever giving them too much. I don't have to do that, but I also don't have to do the opposite of of course that's a cool video game. You know what? Go find my car keys and my wallet. We're going to go right now. I'm going to buy you whatever you want. No, we're not doing that. I'm simply acknowledging that what you're excited about is exciting to you. And I've acknowledged that. Right? Like if you call your friend and be like, oh, I just wanted to share what my child did today. And they're like, oh yeah, my child did that a couple weeks ago and even better. You're like, I hate you. You're no longer my friend. All you wanted to hear is, oh, that must be so exciting. That must be so gratifying for you. And then it completes it, right? So you don't have to give in. Here's another one. Your child is getting upset or frustrated. Oh man, if I were you, I'd be really frustrated too. Now it doesn't mean, watch this one. Oh, you know what? If my sister did that to me, I'd have been really frustrated too. I think you should go in the other room and slap her in the face. That's not what you do. That's not what you say. You're just acknowledging that it's normal for her to be frustrated. And that's very calming. One of our favorite examples from live workshops, which we're booking again, which is cool, is one where I go through a child who struggles with anxiety, and you're just trying to get them to the Taekwondo practice, because when they go, they actually enjoy it, but getting there is miserable because they've got all these unknowns, and so they end up saying things like, you're stupid, I hate you, I'm not going to Taekwondo, it's the dumbest thing ever, you can't make me. And we get all upset, and it ends up being a 3-hour ordeal. They never go, and then it ruins our relationship with our child because we say awful things. And all we needed to say in that moment is, of course you're anxious. Of course you're a little nervous. Going to a new place with a new instructor and new kids where you don't know what's going to happen, of course you're anxious. See, sometimes just validating the feeling and normalizing it in our society, normalizing it instead of making like, oh, again, you know what, my child he's got anxiety about new things, and I think I need to take him to someone to talk about it every week so he becomes even more anxious. No, I normalize it. Of course you're nervous. Going to a new place where they're new. Look, when I go to new places with new people and I don't know what to expect, I'm a little bit anxious about that. See, I just normalized it so the child doesn't feel like there's something wrong with him. I could stop the podcast right now, and that's enough because that will really help in your home. But let's do that this week. Number 2, I want you to praise or affirm with intensity. So here's what's happening in our home. What I alluded to it before. What happens is we wait until our child messes up, and then we give them all of our intensity. How many times have I told you not to do that? You know what? If I have to tell you one more time, you know, what were you thinking? How many times right? I come home from work, and when I used to come home from work and I was on Casey, it was always like, why did you do that? You know what? If you can't stop doing that, and all of my intense emotional involvement was going toward what? When he did something wrong or made a bad choice. And guess what it did? One, it crushed his little spirit. It hurt his heart, and it physically changed his brain, because here's what my son learned early in life. If I want my dad's intensity and I crave it, because if their dad's listening, they need you. They crave and need your positive intensity. I was raised with a dad who was career military and everything was negative. And that does not work. It ruins the relationship. And dads, these kids need our intensity in positive ways. They want to please us, but they don't know how. And we inadvertently change the physical structure of their brains by always responding. Mom, we do the same thing, right? We're standing in the kitchen. Your kids are playing in the living room. And what happens? For 12 minutes, we don't notice anything. But in the 12th minute, there's a little chaos going on, and now it unnerves us, and we go, you know what, guys? You know what? I try to give you all these video games, try to play with you, I make life nice, and you can't even play well together for 12 minutes. And what did they just learn? If I want my mom's intensity, let's start fighting or doing something wrong. Why not after 7 minutes just pop your head in and say, guys, you know what's really cool? You guys have been playing well together for like 7 minutes. It shows me you're growing up. That's it. Short and sweet. Here's the odd thing about some of your kids is they need the praise, they need the intensity, but it can't be too much. So very few words, very matter of fact at times. Okay? Because what happens is it sounds like this. Oh, you made such a good choice. And we make a big deal out of it, and then your kids resist it and shut down because it sounds fake. We never thought you'd actually make a good choice, but you just did, so we're going to throw a party. No, simple things like just walking by and saying, hey, proud of you. That was a good choice. Hey, when I began changing, I would come home from work and say, hey, Case, Mom said you were really helpful this afternoon. Man, shows me you're growing up. Fist bump, and I'd walk away. 5 to 7 seconds. That was intense, right? Because it was intense, positive stuff of like sometimes just giving a fist bump is really good intensity for positive intensity. And remember, we praise for progress, not perfection. If you're waiting for a perfection in other people, please don't have human relationships, because you'll always be disappointed and ruin that relationship. So I'm always saying, hey, that shows me you're growing up. Hey, that was a good choice. I like how you handled that. See, and that phrase I taught you a few weeks ago of like, you know what? If I wish I was more like you. I love how you handled that. See, there's something intense but low-key about that doesn't draw too much attention to them, but they're getting it. So for the next week, let's start doing that, okay? Let's start praising with intensity. Catch your kids doing things well. I just got an email. The reason I wanted to include that is I got an email from a dad. It was actually from a mom who said, I've noticed a difference. I got your downloads. I downloaded the dad's CD to my husband's phone. So he's listening now. On the way back and forth to work, when he's working out, he's listening. And she said, what I've noticed, the biggest change in my kids is when my husband walks through the door, he's making a conscious effort to notice when they're doing things well, and the kids are eating it up, and they want to please him. And she has noticed her husband, he will start with a natural thing of like getting on them in the intensity, but then he's catching himself. And that's partly why I want you listening to the audio downloads to the CDs, because if you're listening again and again and again and just have it on in the background, it makes all of this stuff so much easier, because you'll hear the scripts that we use in the moment. You'll hear the tone of voice, and it will remind you to give that. And so this mom was like, just by putting that in on his iPhone and having him listen to that, it's changing how the kids are relating to him. And he's finding, because he came to her and he said, because he's a typical guy, and he's like, I don't want to do this stupid calm parenting thing. This is dumb. I just need to discipline like my dad did it. And what he told his wife was, I've noticed the kids are actually listening to me more when I'm giving them praise and when I'm noticing the good things. Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, it's no different than if you have a boss at work who's constantly negative and on you all the time about all the things you're doing wrong. You're not going to be like, I can't wait to get to work harder for that person. But if you have a boss who's noticing, saying, look, it was a really good job on that project, you want to work harder for that person, right? Because your brain is the same way. So let's do that this week. If you need our help, contact Casey. He'll put together a package, or just go. We've got a huge Mother's Day sale. So either get the Calm Parenting package or just get everything. There's a Get Everything package, which is everything. It's cheaper than therapy, and it really will change things in your home. So number 3, let's meet physical or sensory needs with intensity. When I'm doing phone consultations, a lot of times we're hearing about, okay, the child is slapping, is hitting, is doing really physical stuff, and I'm always looking for clues. And so if you have a child that's very physical, they need to be very physical proactively. And so you've heard me say, I love having an obstacle course out in the backyard, in the basement. I love waking kids up to treasure hunts where they have to climb through things, climb over things, doing martial arts, swimming, having to pull things, push things, shovel mulch, climbing, doing different sports. Most of your kids aren't that great at they're not always that great at team sports, but they're often very good at individual sports. But some of your kids, if you notice, they gravitate toward things like hockey and lacrosse that are very, very physical, hanging upside down off the sofa. This week, observe your kids, notice if they're physical like that and seeking physical pressure, and then come up with ways proactively for them to get that physical intensity. Now, if you want them outside, you're going to have to get outside. So make games outside, make them challenges, make them fun, right? But you can't go ding dong, ditch that house and get back to me in the next minute and a half. Actually, you can't do that because they'll have a camera on the Ring doorbell and you'll get arrested. But play games with them, do things that get the physical intensity. The physical intensity and sensory intensity for your kids actually calms their bodies and will calm their brains. So this week, we're going to acknowledge with intensity. Of course you want to do that. Not going to happen tonight, but we can brainstorm about different ways we can make that happen. Of course you'd be frustrated. If I were you, I'd be frustrated too. That's calming. We want to praise with intensity, catch your kids doing things well, and let's meet those physical sensory needs with intensity. Some of your kids need a lot of intensity. So it's not just like regular exercise. Make it fun, make it intense. If you can, we used to wrestle with kids at times because that was really, really helpful for them to do that. But create that little obstacle course and then watch this week how that helps in so many different situations. It's cool. So remember this word of intensity. When they're upset. I remember these kids who came to our house because we had all these camps and we had a lot of adopted kids and kids who were adopted from Russia. They were all named Alexander. And I remember with this kid, Alexander, I would try like some of my normal calming stuff and it just didn't work. But when I got intense with him, saying, man, Alexander, if I were you, I'd be really frustrated too. You know what I do when I'm frustrated? And then I would start doing these freaky jumping jacks where I'd do them like really, really intense, or I'd do push-ups really intense, or I'd run around my house, outside of my house in a really intense way. And what I found is when I led him with intensity, It was really calming. He needed that. And some of your kids need that intensity, but it's positive intensity. So if we can help you, reach out to Casey, C-A-S-E-Y, at celebratecalm.com. And we would love to help you. And it'll be very personal. It's our family mission. Thank you for listening. Share with others. And let us know how we can help you. Love you all. Bye-bye.